there was a lady well known to me that used to be a travel agent, but her dream was having a nail studio. So she quit. She rented a table in somebody else's salon, and she was doing nails, but she was hard-pressed to turn over even 25K a month. And she was saying to me, I can't live on this. I've got too many costs. I don't have enough clients. Can you help me? And her story is the one that I'd like to share today. She enrolled in one of my group coaching programs. And as we took her through the steps, you saw things falling in place, things clicking. And the biggest surprise was when she came back in week 6. But I'll leave that for later.
Welcome to Meet My Business, the podcast where real businesses tell their real stories. My guest today is SJ Pretorius of Ubiquity Coaching and Mentoring.
So tell me who you are in one sentence.
One sentence. I'm SJ Pretorius. I am a South African from the platteland that worked and lived in America and came back with a different viewpoint on doing business to South Africa.
And what does a typical day look like for you?
Typical day for me starts around about 6:45 with my first coaching session. I cram them in the mornings when I'm fresh and have enough energy. So I do, with half an hour in between, at least 3 sessions in the morning. And then I get onto my own other responsibilities for the day, whether it be admin, invoicing, or marketing. I have a social media marketing company, but I'm very pedantic. So I write all my own copy before it goes out.
And how did you get into the coaching business?
Like many people, I was impressed with what I achieved as an entrepreneur, which is a legend in my own mind. And I went a specific path of personal development and a number of books that I read while I achieved what I thought was the pinnacle of my corporate career. I had to give, because of my position, 3 months notice, and I went out and I started coaching. I thought I could duplicate what happened to me to any other person. But, we are all so different. It's impossible to say, read this book, read that book, do this. Everybody takes something different away. So I started finding better ways to help clients. So for the first 8 years, it was by the seat of my pants. Mm-hmm. Then I fortunately came across an international franchising coaching where I did 3 years of very intensive training. I think in 3 years, I had to go to America 14 times to get trained progressively up to a point. And in that franchise, during those 3 years, I managed to develop, they say, if you want to learn something, teach it. I managed to develop 26 franchisees in South Africa as new coaches. And when I was happy with where we were, and actually the catalyst was somebody saying, don't you want to become our global operations director? It was a signal for me. This is becoming corporate again. Time out. I'm going back to being on my own. That's what I like. That's what I do. So basically 2010 end onwards, 2011, I had a number of sweet pieces of collateral that I kept developing. I had a background and a framework that I could use to coach properly. And I've been going at high speed as much as I can with clients with that kind of repository. But it's incredibly important to stay current, to stay up to date, and to follow the trends like AI at the moment. You've got to incorporate AI into what you're doing to stay at the forefront of your science.
So it seems to me a lot of small business people like yourself come from corporate. What was your corporate job? Why did you leave it? And what was the motivation to do what you do today?
When I say corporate, even as corporate, I was contracting in. I didn't work for anybody except my 4 years of national service. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I ended up contracting in America independently in 89 until 95. I came back, and because of my experience in America, I went over as a programmer. Became a project manager very quickly. Computer programmer, mainframe. I became a project manager very quickly over there in the American style. And back in the 90s, we were quite behind America. We didn't have the internet. The proliferation of the knowledge was not the same. And when I landed back in South Africa in 95, I was looking for the type of people that I could upskill to be the same kind of project manager that I had seen in the States. So I started a project management bureau. And at the pinnacle, I was hiring out 94 project managers to the big banks, to the big universities for massive projects. And the core thing was managing my project rather than just being a project manager. And that's what I did by building that, and the literature that I used and the fallback of the certifications that I used to get everybody where I was, where I wanted them, is what made me think I can probably help people start businesses or take businesses and improve it. And of course, it wasn't that easy, but that's where it comes from.
What are the people closest to you say that? How do they understand what you do? What do they say?
The interesting thing is, my dad, for 40 years that I've been out of school, has no idea what I do. I became a programmer, and from programming, I went overseas as a contract programmer. I became a project manager. I came back to the country. I project managed and ran a project management bureau here. And as much as I tried to explain to him, these were all actually vocations that was not in existence when he was a young man. So today I know, my dad just knows I do something weird. He thinks I'm a teacher or a lecturer, and that's where it stands. My children, my two older children, never tried to understand, and they just thought, well, Dad does something weird over there. I've got two younger children, and the one that's 19 at the moment, when he was about 3, he was walking around with his toy phone, and I heard him go chat, 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 blah, 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 and then he'd say the words business coaching, and then he'd walk and pace like I do, and he'd say business coaching. It's the only word I understood, business coaching. So I thought, my kids understand me finally. So him and his younger sister are fully on board. She has mimicked me on a flip chart when I do sessions for the TV, and she speaks like me, and she understands from that point a lot more of the mechanics. My wife, on the other hand, met me when I was running the project management business. She understands that. She understands the project management thing. And as it has gone further between lecturing and coaching, it's a black box for her, but she's got an idea how to refer people. When it comes to friends, not many of them understand. Not many of them really know. To them, business coaching is still a very new, a very weird concept. And I have to try and explain. And what I use as terms to just try and explain it is to say, I help business owners, specifically entrepreneurs, and most of the time incidental entrepreneurs, not by choice, to understand the mechanics of their business, to understand things like profit drivers in their business that can leverage off each other, and looking at the business as a separate entity that they then use to build a legacy without them being the only engine inside it, but standing outside and working on the business.
So take me back to that beginning of the business. Tell me the story of what it took to start this.
I had sold shares in the company that I started, all my shares. We had listed in 99 as a group of companies. So it was a smaller piece of a much bigger pie. I had sold all of that, so I had subsistence money. And I went out, and instead of charging for consulting or coaching, I took shares in a company with the model being, I'll take a number of shares, I'll improve you, and you buy me out at market value. That was way too advanced for South African entrepreneurs, especially your solopreneurs. It went right over their heads. So I did it with 3 people, and I made the mistake of doing it with people that were close to me. 3 companies, 3 people for the first 3 years. I was doing that simultaneously. And the moment you're a director and they don't understand what you're doing, they expect you to be present, they expect you to do things, and it changes the coaching versus director relationship. So I literally, those 3 years was a case study for me. I helped them improve. I gave back those shares and I walked away, and I went to an upfront fee. And people either see the light and they pay an upfront fee, starting on retainer, they will do it upfront monthly, and that's how I do it. And that's been working for me ever since.
It seems to me during COVID, a lot of people became coaches just out of sheer desperation. You obviously were a coach way before.
Absolutely. That's a bit irritating, I must say.
So what sets you apart from other business coaches specifically?
Having run projects internationally on every single continent, while I haven't visited all of them, I was responsible for projects on the behalf of Morgan Stanley out of New York, or Delta Airlines out of Atlanta. And for more than a year would run projects for them on an international basis, giving you a unique perspective of business at that level. You're running profit and loss statements, you're running the pulse of that project. You need to know how much you are bringing back to the company, if not in monetary value, in benefits that you've created out of the project and the long-term view. So that gave me a perspective on how to structure those kind of things. And then becoming the MD of a company that is selling what I had just done for a number of years was enlightening, because I had to start thinking differently. I had to start thinking business owner, and I had to do all my own business development. So I never before had done business development until I started that company in 96. So doing the business development for that, it gave me an all-rounder. And one of my biggest income streams right now is developing the business development side for people. And it's been enhanced by a lot of international courses. It's been enhanced by a lot of practical research on the ground. I must have written 3 documents that can count as theses for the things that I've done, that I've implemented. What it makes it fantastic is I have a document for almost everything that people want to know about, because I'm half academic, half pragmatist. And that has given me a unique insight. I've always been able, even in national service, to see where the instructor is saying one thing and there's 2 or 3 guys in the class that's not getting it. I've been able to interpret that for those 3 guys. And that unique gift I've used to teach people how to do things that's MBA level, but they don't have to know it is. They just practically implement it. And that is a big advantage of how I approach coaching.
In all your years of coaching, was there a moment you thought, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm going to give up?
Many times.
Yeah.
Those usually happen when you get into a conflict with a client. My agreements are quite watertight, and my guarantee is actually, if you're not getting what I promised, you can stop paying me and I'll keep working at it till you get what I promised. But I go back to the paper, I manage it to the paper. I haven't lost an argument in terms of people not wanting to pay because of the proper backbone, while it's really unpleasant. You could shut down a whole portion of the market if you do this. I got into a dispute with one of my clients that was a second-hand car dealer, but that covered most of the south of Johannesburg. So if that had gone really bad, I would have lost any credibility in the car industry in that area and whoever else they know. So as a coach, reputation management is incredibly important. And there were days at 2 a.m. in the morning that I would just sit and say, I can't. And if there was an island where I could run away to, I probably would have. But I enjoy what I'm doing. I keep coming back, regardless of those instances. And I've reached the capability maturity level in coaching where it doesn't happen anymore. I just like objection handling in sales, I handle the foreseeable issues, challenges that might come up in my mind from my experience, and I keep handling it before anything happens. And it's down to very good communication.
So tell me, what do you know now that you wish you had known when you had started?
If I knew what I know now when I started, there were no degrees for coaching in the early 2000s. So I would have gone and sought a repository where people know what they're doing, where people have been coaching. The issue is, initially I didn't even know what to call myself. The coaching was so new that when I heard it on an educational video I was watching on YouTube, I realized, but that's what I want to do. That is exactly what I want to do. But I had no idea where to find knowledge behind. But a repository of things, those things being specific capabilities that you need in a business to go through science. There's a science behind running a business. And the biggest thing is 5 profit drivers. And those 5 profit drivers can be compounded if you implement it correctly. But I only learned that 10 years in. And I made it the pivot of my business coaching is to work with people to implement the profit drivers one by one. And it's things like the number of leads you bring in, your percentage of conversions, your capability of doing repeat business with people, then on top of that, your costs, and then your prices. And if you tweak that up or down the way you need it, it becomes, instead of a 50% improvement, it can become 120% improvement of your company by doing it correct. I would wish somebody could have told me that in 2001.
I'm sure over the years you've read many, many books about business development.
Constantly.
And written some as well. Which book do you think was the most useful for you, that you learned the most?
Before I went out on my own, I was still a project management bureau. I read Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me to think bigger than where I was. And then in the early years, Jim Collins released Good to Great. And I absorbed Good to Great as if it was manna from heaven. And he then followed up with Great by Choice. So the two books, and he's coining the word BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal, is something that fits into coaching and the strategy for coaching somebody so well. And now there's a third book. That led to Vern Harnish writing The Rockefeller Habit. There's 23 specific Rockefeller habits that if you can combine these things between the knowledge base of Jim Collins and his co-authors and Vern Harnish's series of things already, you've got coaching covered. Those are like the biblical backbone for any good coach.
Imagine now a viewer or our listener has absolutely no idea what you do. How would you explain it to somebody who's got no clue?
I would actually say I help business owners most of the time who are incidental entrepreneurs and not by choice because of circumstances. I help them understand the intricacies of their business. I help them understand how it fits in, and I help them to start working on their business as opposed to be the expert in their business only. And that pivot in thought will get them to then start managing this entity as a separate thing from them being the business. And by enabling them like that, you are empowering them to do what they never thought was possible.
I'm sure a lot of people come to you and with problems and you need to solve them, but there must be an ideal client, somebody that you love working with. Who is that?
It's that entrepreneur that, incidental or not, has been really successful. His turnover is at least 5 million and above. And I know it's broad to say entrepreneur, but you can make it very specific by saying the factory owner that's got a optimization issue. You can say the retailer that's hit a ceiling. He's running the business, it's going well, but it's not improving. There's a glass ceiling, he doesn't know how to break through it. I help break that glass ceiling because I understand where to tweak the business for them.
Okay. So explain to me from the first time somebody contacts you to them becoming a client and having success, what does that process look like?
I typically, when somebody starts indicating that they want to be coached, we do a 45-minute mock coaching session. And if they're happy with what they see and want to go further, I do an evaluation. I've got what I call a business health assessment that I've drafted in 2011, and I've been improving constantly. And it's putting a stake in the ground about the subjective view over 10 categories of the business owner, the entrepreneur, the MD, and maybe partners, where they are in terms of the business. And there's more than one. I evaluate each of them separately, and I overlay the results. That gives us a roadmap on how to improve the business. I then work with them according to the priorities that comes out of the report. And in 3 months, 90 days, we redo the assessment as a measurement of where they were. And it's also a checkpoint where I can say, are you happy? Have you seen what happened? Are we going further? I like the 3, 6, 9 approach, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. Those are magic in coaching terms. It's also quarters of the year, so it's very nice to help them align with the tax season and things like that. And then work until they're happy to where we were. You've got to understand that a coach has got to get himself out of the business. I don't want to be there permanently. I want to help them develop the skills, create an awareness of what they need, facilitate an ongoing education for them, and then hold them accountable.
And how is this different from what other business coaches do?
I have no idea what other business coaches do. I just know my system works. I haven't patterned it off to anybody because I couldn't find anybody to do this. I've used components from different modalities, different subject experts, and model it together in my own ball of Nutria clay, and I'm working like that. It's working. I also don't do accredited training because for me, my results is business improvement. If you're happy with that, we do it. I'm not going to do CETA and SACWA and all those things because that's not how you measure my success. My success is measured by more income and more profit for the business.
So that's a very real sort of outcomes that you're working towards.
Absolutely.
And then what is the most common misconception that people have about
business coaches? They think you're a consultant, you're going to come in and do work for them.
Mm-hmm.
As a business coach, I don't do for you. I don't have done for you solutions. I would ruffle through what they've got. We look at the outcomes of the assessment, and by working with them side by side, by the three things I've mentioned, awareness, education, and accountability, they do the work. Often they think you're a sales coach or you're a business coach. Can you come and do my sales process for me? No, it's not how it works. That's the biggest misconception.
You've worked with a client now for a few months. What is the biggest change that they experience?
I realized this retrospectively, and I now work it, is you bring a whole language with you. A different language that's in the beginning completely strange for them. So when you start hearing them using constructs for concepts that they didn't know before among themselves, it's very satisfying because they will start using the vernacular of coaching as it applies to their business. They will start using the names for the 5 profit drivers, etc., in context properly. And that's what changes, and it lifts them up to another level in my viewpoint. And that's how you understand, okay, these guys got it. They're on their way.
And what is it, what they say at that moment that you know you got through to them?
It's when they realize that, I'll take a simple example. One example would be, if you have a sales pipeline and you have 100 people coming in, what is the next step? Many people think you can go out, you can say, Hendrik, I sell coaching, do you want to buy? That's not enough. There's a process. And what is the process? And every step of the process has got a conversion rate. It could be, I managed to speak to 80 of that 100, but only 40 of them makes appointments with me. And of that 40, I only get 20 clients. Or I get 20 to actually read my agreement and only 4 sign the agreement. It's understanding that there's a funnel with these steps, and they've got to use these steps and understand that they have a different conversion rate for each of them. And as it is in their business and how it's applicable, if they start tweaking it like that and they're saying, okay, we are at stage 3 and it's 20% here, without me asking, you know that, okay, they are onto the magic.
What problem do people have that they don't even realize, the most common?
It's very easy. In South Africa, people don't know how to market themselves. The biggest incompetency is that they don't know the difference between marketing and sales, and it's completely unaware or unconscious for them. So you've got to make that apparent and show them a way to get clients through marketing, rather than all they think maybe is they've got one tactical marketing strategy, be it knocking on doors or word of mouth, and they rely on that and they keep relying on that. It's adding tactical marketing strategies that makes them expand their business and build on top of that.
Now, you and I know that referrals are word of mouth, probably one of the best marketing methods there are. So if a client that's gone through your hands were to refer somebody else, what is it that you'd want them to say to get that referral to you?
First of all, let's put the keyword in the other person's mouth. If the guy's saying, for 2 years, I've been staying at the same level of profit while my turnover has increased, I don't understand why. The guy that's stuck there, the guy that needs to be get excited and passionate about his business again. He's starting to lose faith because his early 60s, he works 40 to 60 hours in a week and he can't see the end for anything. It's just darkness. When they hear the guys about that, they can say, listen, I've got a coach. I was exactly where you were. He helped me. Can I set up an appointment with SJ for you?
So I'm very curious about nail technician you talked about earlier. How did that all pan out?
So I have this group coaching program where I allow only 20 people. And in week 6 specifically, it's only 10 modules, but I give them 12 weeks to implement it in. In week 6, they're allowed to invite somebody else. Now, that's irrelevant to the story, but that week, having visitors in the room together with my 20 participants, this lady came in there. Now, remember, she was doing 25,000 Rand at a table in somebody else's salon. She had costs to be there, and her take-home was very little. She walked in there with the biggest smile. She looked like a different person. And we let her share right away. We always share the previous week's work. We let her share right away. Remember, this was week 6. In other words, in 6 weeks from starting the program, she had turned over 125,000 Rand. She had moved into her own salon. She had employed 2 additional ladies. And she applied for and got funding for a permanent makeup machine that works with lasers. It's beyond my expertise completely. But she had a hustle that was suddenly pumping in her own venue. And that she dedicated to the 6 weeks that she's learned from me and from the group, because of their synergy in the group teaching and the group coaching. And she has been with me for 10 years already, because she just wouldn't let go. It was like, SJ, come with me. She won awards the end of that year. I had to be at the award ceremony. I still have photos on Facebook standing next to her, not having a clue what all these somatologists are talking about. But that is the level that she took it to. And today she's got a franchise. She's selling agencies to other people that want to do the same. And that is a very satisfying success story for me. She has grown literally by 500% to be at 125,000 turnover in those 6 weeks. And numbers like that right now is old hat to her. She's improved, she's grown, and she is incredibly successful.
So what changed emotionally for her?
We managed to get her to stop concerning herself with the puddle that she thought she was sitting in like a little piggy, and look at where she can go and focus on what she can do. And that exploded the mindset, and she just kept growing from that.
What does a story like that remind you of about why you do this work?
Absolutely why I started. I love people. I love helping people. I love developing people. And I like not to do it overtly. I won't tell people I'm working on this and this and this. I'll do it, and they will realize, but I've got this and this and this now. I've got a new vocabulary. I've got new skills. And that amazes me, because I was a tutor on MBA programs in the teens of 2010. And there I got it for the first time, where you get these guys on the intake, and 10 months later, they're different people. And when I see that from somebody like her, that's gone, she lost weight, she changed her makeup, she looked different. It's just warming the heart.
You do something called flash coaching.
Yes,
what is that?
I do. In the fast pace of AI and all that right now, instead of most people being available for a full hour to come and sit and do almost a therapy session in their eyes, I've got a 20-minute version where 48 hours in advance, I've got to give me an issue. I've got to be able to research that in their business. Preferably, it's a business I know. And then they come in with that single issue. We do a brainstorm. We do a challenge on it. We do a solution, and we put 4 action steps in place. 20 minutes done, and I put people on a retainer. They pay a small amount, under 1,000 Rand, to do that. And it's really incredibly popular at the moment.
And how do people get hold of you if they want any of your services?
My website would be the best place. It's ubiquity.co.za. I'll spell ubiquity, UBEQUITY, ubiquity.co.za.
And when somebody goes to the website, what do you want them to do there?
I want them to flip through it all. I deliberately made it as a single page, but right at the bottom, you'll see that you can book a session. Mm-hmm. And booking a session with me will get you in my diary and we can chat.
Yes, yeah, I am very keen to see what you do and get my business massaged with all of your skills. So
thank you, sir.
We will definitely talk. Thank you very much for being here today, and thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Hendrik. This was amazing.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is exactly why stories like this need to be told. Thank you so much for being so open about your journey today. If what you heard today resonated with you and you want to find out more about the business we discussed today, every guest we've ever had on Meet My Business, their business name, episode number and direct link lives in one place. Head over to bear.media/Meet My Business.